Hi everyone. Today let's talk about CrowdStrike causing a major outage in worldwide business, and then we'll do a quick update for the data and the charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So CrowdStrike caused a major shutdown in the tech world, and it was down 12% on that news. Microsoft also fell 12%, affecting Azure Cloud Services and the Microsoft 365 suite. This is obviously having major ripples across the world. There were also shutdowns in the airline industry due to this tech glitch. Apparently, it was an update to the CrowdStrike software that was not properly formatted with Windows platforms, and you can see it actually recovered a little bit. It opened down 14%, and then they did recover down to only 12%. Obviously, this is terrible, and it's terrible for everyone. Microsoft did survive a little better, only 1% down as of 9:30, and you can see here the crash was specific to Windows hosted products, and it did give people that blue screen of death, so not great there. CrowdStrike has been the winner, up 118% in the last 12 months. It's been a massive runner, but if CrowdStrike is going to suffer from this, it's likely that the other cyber stocks could potentially benefit. So as a potential trade, could be interesting. And you can see CrowdStrike also got a downgrade to sell. Pretty interesting timing there. And you can also see Palo Alto rising 1.3%. And then Zscaler, Cloudflare also up 1%. So some of the other stocks were benefiting from this failure. Moving over to the Fear and Greed Index, stepped down to a 49, finished the week at a 49. The previous week was a 54. You can see we got all the way up to a 63, pulled all the way back. So it was a pretty choppy market this week. Step down to greed here, still regular fear on strength and breadth, so those haven't been changing. A little bit flatter here today than they have been, despite the markets that we saw today. And then extreme greed here, still on the put call ratio, still not very high, around that 70 area. And then extreme fear on volatility continues to rocket higher, makes sense. And then safe haven demand into regular fear, and then junk bond demand into extreme greed. Pretty interesting to see that. People must be searching for those yields as equity markets continue to crater here today. Moving over to the earnings calendar, you can see American Express beating on the bottom line, missing on the top. SLB beating on both. Seems like oil and gas stocks have been a pretty good place to be. In terms of earnings, Halliburton missed on the top line. Comerica beat on both. And then don't forget, we have Verizon pre-market on Monday, and really that's the only one for Monday. Moving over to Max Payne, look at that finish. Came almost down to it. So we almost got a Max Payne finish on a third week options expiration. Markets are getting back into more normalized conditions. We've been very extended to the upside, and this is actually more normal after the 3 days of downside we've seen. 3.4 million options, put call ratio up to 3.28, so we're starting to find a little bit more buyers coming in. Finished below that 550 put wall, but above the 545, so a little bit lower than I would have guessed. I think I said 551 is what I was looking for going into the session, so did have a pretty good sell-off, a little bit more than I thought. And you can see we're mixed here, not quite at the bottom of the calls, but certainly not at the top of the puts either. So mixed finish for this third week options expiration. Moving over to the charts here, starting off with the S&Ps, you can see 3 days of selling. Big bear candle, 0.66. Yesterday was 0.77, so we actually accelerated a little. So we almost doubled up 2 days in a row, took out the 21, took out VWAP, took out these trend lines, took out the level 550. That's kind of why I thought we would hang in that zone, 550, 551. But that level broke, so your next support is all the way down at 544. Might find some support in here around 546. Might add a level there that's a little bit close, $2, almost $3 between those two levels. Pretty tight range there, but I could see some consolidation highs here. But I could see this consolidation midpoint being an interesting area. Otherwise, really nothing is good here. Momentum bearish, big volume right at the end of the session. Momentum bearish here, RSI bearish, big selling on all three of those days. You can see above all these previous ones going all the way back here to the 28th. And this is all really stemmed out of this big rejection we got off this trend line. Pretty much called this really close to exactly what happened. We got here, expected a couple days of grinding, just like we saw here. Happened, big breakdown, and this has been much more dramatic than these previous breakdowns. From top to bottom here now, we're down about 2.5 to 3%, so right in that range. I think this has a little bit more downside to go, in my opinion. Moving over to the 4-hour chart here, you can see on the Tasty charts, ATR trailing stop all the way down to 558.70. Look at this volume on all three of these days here. Just massive selling over the past couple days. This is the 4-hour. And you can see we hit that 144 EMA, so that's interesting, which is sitting at 548.62. Could be a zone where we find a little bit of support. Momentum starting to swing to bullish here a little bit on the MACD. This is the volume weighted MACD, so interesting zone there. I don't think we're going to see a change in structure, but it would wouldn't shock me if we did see a little bit of a pullback and then a continuation lower. We are extended below that lowest ATR band, which is 549.63. Moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis, 3 days down. Yesterday looked a little bit better, couldn't hold any of those gains, sold off some more. 0.89 on the day, wasn't great. Took out my 477.69 level, hung out around 475. It's down just a smidgen after hours. You can see we're finding some buyers around the lows back here from the 24th. And then my level 471.93. So kind of a wide range, 471.93 up to 477. So it makes sense we're finding a little bit of buyers in between there. Momentum bearish, still huge volume. RSI still bearish. And you can see selling just a little bit more after hours. We did get super extended on this previous low. We currently have a much lower price with a higher RSI on the hourly chart. So definitely some divergence happening there. Eventually we'll see a little bit of a swing. But again, I would expect a lower high and then a continuation lower. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. The Russell was down 0.5%. Held pretty well in that 215.42 area, wicked all the way down to 215.85, got a little bit of a bounce. Momentum still bearish, watching this level closely. Go ahead and extend out that trend line here. So that support would be in and around that 213 area. So maybe we break down to that, hold there. Either way, looks like there's going to be a little bit more selling, but I wouldn't expect it to go too much further. The lowest I would expect is that 209 area. And then looking at the Dow, big down candle, 0.93, hit the 9 EMA. That's at 402.42. Down a little bit more after hours. The level for me is still 398.76. Momentum stepping down, RSI breaking the SMA, so that looks a lot more bearish than the Russell. The Russell's still holding that SMA, so that's why I think we're going to hold up a little bit better there. Moving over to stocks that moved today, we got SBUX up 6.8% on the day. Clear double bottom, got back here, beginning of May timeframe, caught a bounce all the way up to the 83 area from 72, came back, touched 72, critical zone, got an up candle there, about 4%, dipped 2 candles, held the 9 EMA, huge push here. This stock has been in the dumpster. All-time highs are up around 120, came all the way down to that 72 range. So if you want to play for a rally, you could. 144 sitting up there at 86.30, 200, 89.48. You can see this previous rally from this same zone. Got all the way up to the 115 area. So SBUX, there's still value in this stock. It's just not growing the same way that it used to. They can't really charge the same prices and still expect customers to continue in here. But good volume, good momentum. You would expect at least a second day push here on SBUX. Something to watch for the Monday session. And then look at CrowdStrike. You could argue that this was already set up to fail. This is why I wonder sometimes, are these events scheduled? You can see consolidation, started the sell-off. 3 big bear candles in a row already leading into that trend. And then you get this weird catalyst, gaps all the way down to the 200, 288.56 level, touched it almost to the penny, right in that same level from the mid to end of April timeframe. So pretty interesting. Kind of did what you would have expected even without that catalyst. Just happened a lot faster than I would have guessed. So interesting there. Huge volume coming in on the day. 41 million shares. Not as much as you saw here at 54 million in this previous consolidation. Man, if that didn't tell you there was selling happening at this all-time high, I don't know what would. Huge volume on this wick here with basically no movement. Pretty interesting. And then you get that big sell, big follow through, super oversold conditions. It's a decent price. It's a lot cheaper than it was, more than $100 down from that 392 area, but definitely want to be patient on a stock like this. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple hung in there 0.06 after the big down day that they had on Thursday. Microsoft down 0.74. They were involved in the shutdown. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Again, they pushed right to the trend line, right where we thought they were going to. Held that trend line, bounced a little bit. The trend was sitting at 433. Touched that, caught a little bit of a bounce. That's the structure we're still holding. Next level below that, 428.88. Moving over to Tesla and NVDA. Tesla down 4%. Talked about this being a high, lower high, selling coming. 21 EMA is the current price target. Currently, that's at 227.58. Above that, you got 232.57. I think we're going to push through that, hit the 21. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Similarly here on NVIDIA, another down day, 2.6 after the up day yesterday. Still looking at that 55 EMA as the initial price target. That's at 113.60. Moving over to staples and discretionaries. Staples sold off like we thought it was going to. Had the big wick rejection, had the inside candle, got the continuation lower. Momentum stepping to bearish. RSI still hanging in there. Could touch that SMA and bounce, but right now it hasn't done it yet. We're right in this consolidation high, so it needs to hold that if it's going to. Otherwise, 9 EMA 77.66. That'll be interesting to watch. Could absolutely hold this zone, or it could sell off about another 40 or 50 cents or so. And then discretionaries continues to sell. Once we hit the price target, hit this zone, sold 3 days in a row. Hit the 21 EMA. Low of day was 187.05. 21 was sitting there at 187.09. So touch that level, momentum bearish, RSI bearish, so it's probably going to overthrow that 185.36, but it wouldn't shock me if we did get at least a little bit of a bounce from that level. Moving over to financials and oil and gas, both of these sold. Financials down $1, 9 EMA sitting there. Missed it by 5 cents. If it's going to hold that, needs to touch it there and then bounce. Could see a little bit of a bounce from here already, but momentum bearish, RSI bearish, so probably more selling. 42.22 is the next level. And then oil and gas did exactly what we thought. Hit the price target, 145.92. I was looking at this zone as a potential buy. I'm being patient, honestly. Momentum still rolling down. RSI could do it here. I might regret that. It hit the area I thought. That's where I was looking to enter, and I just didn't do it. It didn't look as strong as I wanted it to. Did close in the middle of the candle, so some buyers did come in there for sure, but I just wasn't one of them. Moving over to my commodities here, we got oil and gold. Oil was down a lot, 3.17%. So this is part of what was giving me pause. Gap through the level, big sell. We talked about this continuing to look bearish. We broke the level here on Tuesday, found a bounce, tested the trend, sold off. Expected more selling. Sure enough, it happened. Right into this zone. Pretty sure I said the 200 SMA was the price target at 78.85. So we did overthrow that. So that looks bearish. Momentum bearish. Big volume selling on the last 2 days. So this is probably going lower. Maybe down into the 77 area. You can see some lows, some wick lows back here. 77, 77.50. And then gold broke. Didn't expect that. I kind of wanted it to hold here. Big gap down, 1.79%. So gold couldn't break. Fake out, breakout. This looks like a topping pattern now, so we're probably going to see a continuation low. And then at some point, I would expect this structure to break down and head towards that 202 area. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon, look at these. So they hung in there a lot better, 9.86% and 4.5% respectively. Momentum back to bullish. Marathon didn't quite do it. Still an inside candle, so I would still expect more selling. Reversal pattern, we're still above the SMAs on both of these, so maybe you do see a little bit of a bounce. Could be interesting to watch. If we do, same price target up at the trend line. And then similarly for RIOT, looking at that 14-18 area. Honestly, consolidation, not clear direction yet, but based on trend, you would have to say bullish. Moving over to the dollar. The dollar hit the price target. You can see it here on that 1300 candle, touched 104.41. High of day was 104.42, so we touched it, hit that 200 SMA. We'll see what happens now. Definitely a pullback. Momentum gaining a little bit of strength. RSI, it's above the SMA here. It is worth noting that daily candle is not closed yet. The dollar does take a little bit longer. So you still got about 2.5 hours on this to see what happens. Could get another push, maybe hold the level. Not super likely at the end of day on a Friday, but interesting there. Clear bottoming formation. You could argue left shoulder head, look for that right shoulder so we get a rejection, hold a higher low and then push, maybe something like that. And if that does happen, that's going to be bearish for equities. Moving over to bonds, JNK not doing much anything, 0.08, still in the same consolidation. Still a bullish trend with some bearish momentum. And then look at TLT. This doesn't look great now. So you have a high, lower high, tried to bounce, got back into the zone, sold off some more. 92.82 still holding, but momentum's fading. RSI, it's below the SMA. So that looks a little bit more selly now, which is interesting. Overall, we're still in this uptrend, but we couldn't get to that upper trend line the same way that we had on the 2 previous runs. So again, that is concerning. Maybe we're going to see some more sideways choppy action, which I guess is better than what we had been seeing. This had been big selling, got a decent bounce here. If this is a bear flag, which it does look like it could be, big move down, bear flag consolidation. If you get a break here, that would be concerning. I don't really think it is. That doesn't make sense with the macro environment. But either way, this might be sideways choppy action over the medium term. Moving over to volatility, move index continues to go higher, just like we thought it was going to. Momentum still swinging to bullish there, so bonds probably going to sell some more. And then volatility did go higher. High of day was 17.19. Still looking for these to get to that 1850 area. If you start to extend out some of these trend lines here, they do start to look into that range, so 1850 up to 1950 or so. Look at that huge wick. I don't know how much of that is real price action. Could be a glitch in the system with CrowdStrike, but otherwise momentum bullish. Definitely overbought. Could see maybe a little bit of a pullback and then a push higher again. I still think we're going to get into that 1850 to 19 range, potentially even test these previous highs, which would be 20 to that 21 area. Moving over to my accounts, I lost about $60 or $70 $70, I think. You'd see the Russell supposedly flat on the day. Sold at 217. That jumped after hours pretty decently and then sold back off. So that's a little bit weird. But it's right in there. 216.60. Closed at 216.80. Sold at 207 for Monday for $1.06, which was good. So again, collecting that money like I wanted to. Rolled that down actually and made some money on a rolled down position, which was still good. And then look at the Qs. Sold a 474 for tomorrow. Sold a 473 and 474 for the Monday session. And then a 481 here for the Tuesday session. All of those are in profits. And that's after taking just a little bit of losses on that main account. Overall, not bad. NASDAQ was down almost 1%. Russell was down 0.5%. And I lost about $60 or $70. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of CrowdStrike or the Microsoft shutdown. Let me know if you had any personal effects on your life due to this shutdown. And is CrowdStrike an opportunity? Microsoft potentially an opportunity after this pretty substantial down move. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.